We need to put some holdo maneuvers.
Hello, welcome back to another HOLDO MANEUVER podcast episode, first one of 2024, and today we are joined by our friend Kenny Madison. Hello, sir.
Welcome, Kenny.
Gentlemen, full disclosure, and I said this in the waiting room, this is the earliest that I've been up in a very long time. Consciously, that is.
Consciously?
Yes.
Is it the same state you were in when you watched Rebel Moon?
We'll get into my screening experience of Rebel Moon. I'm quite pleased with it.
Would you say that the Rebel Moon is still outside? That's how early it is?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
Cool.
absolutely.
Cool. So, before we start, I have a joke for you guys.
Oh,
Yes.
boy.
So, what would you call it if David Bowie had ever showed you his butt?
Delightful.
I mean, besides that.
This is, I got one. It's dirty.
Well, we don't want to get kicked off YouTube.
Okay.
Or do we?
Brown Star Man.
Oh, man.
Brown Star.
It's Rebel Moon. Yeah. I wanted to make you feel the same way with this joke as you did while you were watching Rebel Moon.
I felt lots of things.
And so with that, before... Actually, I'm going to
I can't
ask...
say disappointment was a feeling I had watching Rebel Moon.
So I didn't tell... I didn't tell...
Expectations were very low, and he met them.
I didn't tell either of you I was going to ask you this. But I'm
Outstanding.
going to ask you
Love
both
it.
to describe the movie and the events that happened in it the best you can in 60 seconds.
60 seconds.
Oh my
Yes.
gosh.
So,
You know the movie was 2.5 hours of nonsense, right?
yes. So, as detailed as you can in 60 seconds.
Oh no.
I'm going to go with what I texted you earlier.
Starting with Kenny.
Oh, mean. All right. So,
And then, Mike, yours has to be different.
It'll be different. I'll just say what I texted you guys a couple days ago.
Okay.
all right. So, for 1,000 generations, the royal bloodline of Motherworld has been benevolent rulers that have been ruling over things, but over the course of time, they have also gotten a lust for power. And so, because of that, for some reason, the regent killed the king and queen of Motherworld and has begun their tyrannical reign. Belisarius, the regent, has began the tyrannical reign. That's not necessarily what the movie is about. The movie is about Sophia Boutella, the titular, the part 2 titular Scargiver, and I guess the Child of Fire, so titular as well. And she's farming on her little farm world because, you know, she farms. Farms are a running motif in Star Wars. And Corey Stoll gets killed. She likes Corey Stoll, which is, you know, who doesn't like Corey Stoll?
Paul Rudd.
It gets killed by Ed Skrein, who plays Atticus
Finch.
Atticus Noble. I think that's what his name is.
You're right.
You know,
then-
I wasn't timing this either, too, so that's on me.
Oh, okay. And then Sophia Boutella, motivated, teams up with one of the most vanilla boys in all of science fiction, because Zack Snyder has this way of finding vanilla boys. And then proceeds to reenact the plot of Seven Samurai fairly literally. Well, not literally, but fairly to a T. But with all of the character stripped out, which is unfortunate. The Seven Samurai, good movie. And then,
That's
there's a whole bunch of other movies that he synthesizes in here to make his version of Star Wars, in the sense that that's the genesis of the project, and also you look to the original Star Wars as the synthesis of all of George Lucas's influence. So too is this, but far less artfully. Michael?
Well, it's got to be different than Kenny's. So my take on this is Zack Snyder sat in a chair in a room full of writers, shirtless, doing coke off a broadsword, being like, I'm going to do what I want. And it's not going to make any sense.
Mm-hmm.
You start off with this store, you go onto this farming planet. First, this obvious person who doesn't belong there, who kind of crash landed there, trying to find a way, and they're like, yo, so-and-so wants to do you tonight. So-and-so wants to do you tonight. In a very non-subtle way. That's how it starts off. And then they never come back to that. Because the Motherworld comes and demands tribute, essentially. Then someone gets bludgeoned in the face with a shillelagh. Then a weird lightsaber-esque sword comes out and kills his wife or partner or whoever that was. And then they go on a trip to find more warriors. And then you just get backstory for needless backstory upon needless backstory. And no plot, no characterization, no anything. And then the movie ends. And you're supposed to care.
Look, if there's one thing that Zack Snyder is a fan of, it's needless backstory.
so
I'm fine with backstory and flashbacks, but it's just so in your face, like this is dragging the movie down.
Yeah, but Zack Snyder doesn't know that because he's a filmmaker that operates on it. Sorry, Mark. Sorry. I'm so sorry.
So, I will begin what I was going to say with two things. One, making movies is hard. And the fact this movie and the fact that this movie got made, especially after when we get into like the development of this movie shortly, it is kind of crazy that it actually did get made. And then two, I'm glad that it wasn't just me that I thought this after seeing the beginning of this movie, because I saw Kenny's review after, and then I also shared with both of you after I saw it, and then you both agreed. So I was like, all right, so this movie opens with
literally.
Yeah. I want to use the most technical term, so as to
begins.
Yeah.
Fade
so
in on.
It opens with a shape much similar to this, with a phallic image going through it like that. And I was like, oh, this is just like a metaphor for this movie.
It is the most... I have watched every Zack Snyder film, feature-length film. It is far and away the most visual wit that Zack Snyder has brought to his entire filmography. And he probably did it just because it's cool. And that's it.
Yeah. The Motherworld literally gave birth to this ship.
Yeah.
Now, Kenny, with your review too, it surprised me because I can't remember anybody's character name in this movie at all.
I remember a couple. That's about it.
I was like,
Cora, Kai, and...
Okay. Well, full disclosure, boys. One of the things that I enjoy, if you have listened to one of my other podcasts, primarily Trek Wars Pod, I like to do research, and so, just as a refresher, of course, I picked up what is available on Hoopla Digital, your friendly library app, and I checked out the first issue of the Rebel Moon tie-in comic book, which covers the Blood Axe family, otherwise known as Ray Fisher and the other girl's name.
And the other girl.
And I only remember the Blood Axe siblings because it sounds cool. It's simple. and did that. And then I began reading the novelization Rebel Moon Part 1 A Child of Fire last night as well, and checked that out from my other library app, Libby. And in true Snyder fashion, of course, the first 50 pages were about something that was not in the movie.
And side note to that, they're apparently going to release a longer director's R-rated cut of this, which
this wasn't R-rated.
No, it's PG-13, and which if they're going to do that, and this is already on Netflix, why not just release that version to begin with?
Because that's his MO. I'm going to release something, you're going to hate it, and I'm going to tell you my version's better, and then release that, and it's not going to be much different.
I think ultimately it boils down to Zack Snyder's a filmmaker that works in one way, which is what is cool, and he thinks it's cool that director's cuts are there, and that's it. And so he gets to play out the narrative that is cool for him, which is the theatrical cut, the director's cut, the theatrical cut, director's cut.
Right. It's just make a better movie to start with.
Mm-hmm.
So
I understand making movies is very hard, and congratulations for getting there, but you don't got to run around. If it's a marathon, you don't got to run the marathon punching people in the face as you go. Like, it doesn't have to be as hard as you're making it.
Oh man. So for the development of this, Kenny already kind of said it too. So Rebel Moon is inspired by the works of Akira Kurosawa, the Star Wars films, and apparently heavy metal magazines, which I can see that. Snyder also initially conceived the idea for the film in college, which also I can see that with what the opening of the movie was.
Oh my gosh, that makes
before
so much sense.
And so this was like initially back in 1997, it sounds like. So Snyder then pitched it as a Star Wars film, which is why we are talking about it on the HOLDO Maneuver, to Lucasfilm shortly after Lucasfilm was sold to Walt Disney back in 2012. A whole 12 years ago now. He also pitched his idea as both a video game and a film to Warner Brothers, a couple of times. The project was at one point planned as an original television series by Snyder and producer Eric Newman before pitching it as a film to Netflix. So then, following concerns from Netflix Films chairman Scott Stuber that the project would underperform due to its length, Snyder, unwilling to lose all the character, decided to split the film into two parts.
What character? He already lost it. Or didn't put it all. One of the two.
No, he did. You saw the beginning. He put it in. All right.
I'm gonna give you
also,
a timeout, Mark.
No. This guy. He's gonna.
No. I refuse to go to timeout.
So, I don't remember what the character's name is, but so the one that fights the spider from Doctor Who. So you know the scene where they're like the
one with that weird hat that you kind of block in her face with your picture.
Yes, played by Bae Doona.
Yeah, she reminded me. If anyone's ever seen Kubo and the Two Strings, you remember the characters that were after Kubo and that? She kind of, like, her costume kind of reminded me. You guys know what I'm talking about?
No.
Can't say I do. She started to remind me there's an anime, and I don't know the name of it. They have, like, I don't know if they wear a mask or their face is just white with little dot eyes and, like, red streaks underneath their eyes. Don't know what it's called. Your son would know, Mark.
The character's name is Nemesis.
No, that's
obviously.
And she has, like, steel blades that she can superheat just by holding them. I don't know.
Yeah, but yeah, and like she's fighting this like big spider lady at one point, which to me just looked exactly. Yes, this is who I was talking about from Kubo and the Two Strings.
Yeah.
She kind of just looks like this character
That's
from Kubo
correct.
and the Two
Yes.
Strings. For people
Who's the character in Nightmare Before Christmas that has that hat?
the mayor.
Yeah.
But
That's
yeah,
what it is.
yeah. So that's for people just listening. Look up the sisters from Kubo and the Two Strings. That's what I was referencing there. But and then yeah, she's like fighting the spider that if anyone's watched Doctor Who, it was during the David Tennant era, and I believe it was an episode that had Donna Noble in it, but it was like this like big spider lady that he's fighting, and it's like almost the exact same design where it's like the torso of like a human from like torso up, and then spider body around it. Looks almost exactly the same. So I was like, did they just get that design from
It feels
Doctor
like
Who?
there's some hardcore borrowing from lots of
There's a
titles throughout
there's a
Rebel Moon.
hippogriff in this.
Yep. There's the spider person.
Yeah, so
There's John Carter. There's
John Carter itself is already kind of a story that influenced Star Wars, which made me feel bad for that movie when it came out, because they were like, oh, this movie's so derivative. Actually, this story is what inspired all those other stories that you liked that you watched, but it came out after them.
And did poorly.
Yeah. Oh, I like John Carter. That's a different movie though. But now what's the name of
Rebel
the dude?
Moon is the movie.
Yes.
I know.
That she
it's just
that
easy to just.
is Ray Fisher's the one that like has to tame the hippogriff, right?
No, that is not
Right.
Ray Fisher.
Who's okay?
That is Tarak, played by Staz
Tarak.
Nair.
Okay.
Daz Nair.
Yeah, Tarak.
It's hard for me to remember the names of these characters, but what Snyder always has in his back pocket is making things that stand apart visually, so I can see all of these characters. I just can't remember any of these characters, which is wild. I don't think that I'm nearly as negative on this movie as y'all are. I gave it 3 stars on Letterboxd, and also it's just on such a curve in comparison to the rest of Snyder's filmography, which I truly do not like. I do not have fun, but like the sadist that I am, and the completionist that I am, I feel obligated to finish it because I want to understand the force of nature that is the Snyder phenomenon. It is so fascinating.
He's the modern day Michael Mann. Or Michael Bay, not Michael Mann, Michael Bay.
Ooh, that might be an interesting Freudian slip. Because much like Michael Mann, who interrogates masculinity in interesting ways, Zack Snyder has such an interesting relationship, not necessarily with interrogating masculinity, but creating imagery and narratives that appeal so much to the most powerful base levels of certain masculinity that exists within our society.
AKA the Snyder Bros.
Mark, what's it like to just come in and nail it?
You mean kind of like that spaceship going through the portal at the beginning of the movie?
You can dry that well up.
Hey, that well wasn't that dry when that spaceship went through it at the beginning of the movie.
Jesus, we've degraded.
I'm being very subtle about it so as to not be
Are you though?
right on the nose about it, because if I was right on the nose about it, that would get this video taken down. But I'm being subtle. There's subtlety to it, much like a lot of the things in this movie. There wasn't subtlety to them.
What was unfortunate about the ship?
They were literally space Nazis.
What was unfortunate about the ship entering the wormhole is that it attempted to enter the wormhole, but it required electronic aid in order to just kind of open the wormhole in the first place.
You guys remember the spaceships in Man of Steel?
I did not until I saw the GIF afterward.
Yeah, I saw it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's all I'm gonna say.
I've seen the pictures.
Yeah.
I need to know. I need Snyder to literally hold my hand and just walk me through every single choice of every one of his movies. And I feel like it would just boil down to I thought it was cool, or I thought it was funny.
But yeah, the bad guys in this are literally
That's
like
quite literally just Nazi
quite literally
uniform.
space Nazis.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no subtlety with their casting.
I mean, you could just call them stormtroopers.
Which, look, subtlety is overrated. I am a fan of blunt filmmaking, and also
So is it Kevin Smith?
Very good, Mark.
This is early morning, Mark.
Just nothing but singers.
Your brain's firing on all cylinders.
Yeah, by the end of the day, the life has worn me down. So,
but like, I'm a fan of blunt filmmaking, unsubtle filmmaking, and also I do not think that Snyder possesses. Snyder's strengths are in simple stories. However, in interviews and just in his filmography, it is very clear that his natural predilections are not towards stripped down, straightforward storytelling. He is incredibly interested in the in the presentation of lore and cool images without necessarily understanding what the function is.
yeah. And like, so going off that, like the review that I wrote, you said on Letterboxd, it's like I did 2.5 stars.
Yeah.
But I wrote in there too, making movies is hard.
Making movies is hard. It's
yeah.
true.
And I said Zack Snyder is a great director of photography and a good director, but really needs to let other people write his films.
Yeah.
This definitely felt like a beat sheet movie. Like they didn't finish the script. They just said, okay, we have this, and this. We're just going to film these and hope they tie together.
Because his movies always look really good. Like, and this, I guess this part of this was shot on the volume too, which someone, like one of my friends said, it's like, oh, the CG was really good. And I was like, I think part of it was shot on the volume because you could kind of tell like in some of the scenes there, but which
I will say Snyder has been his own DP for the last 2 movies that he has done.
Yeah.
The
are also Netflix.
Truly dreadful Army of the Dead.
Winner of an Oscar. Kind of.
You're just such a good guy, Mark.
It kind of won an Oscar, I think.
Yeah.
Much like David Ayer's The Suicide Squad. Just David Ayer's Suicide Squad. Drop the it's cleaner.
I feel like this movie doesn't look great.
I mean, there's some cool visuals. Like I like the backdrop of Saturn or whatever planet that was. But that was really it.
That was Uranus.
That's blue.
Well, so is Uranus.
Exactly. It's that tree in my backyard sneaking up.
Speaking of things that are blue, going back to the hippogriff scene, that scene reminded me a lot of Avatar, when Jake basically has to,
Well, one of the bounty hunters was a Na'vi Uruk-hai hybrid.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I was like, so there's a hippogriff in this. So we got Harry Potter, we got Avatar with him taming the hippogriff. That's much like Jake doing that on Pandora.
Well, Harry Potter also has to bow and wait for the hippogriff to bow. I was just waiting for that to happen.
Well, and then we also had Lord of the Rings of the Uruk-hai. Charlie Hunnam is both kind of Strider, aka
the Dark Rider.
Gorn. I always almost say that he's the Dragon Aragorn, slash Han Solo. But spoiler alert.
/ Lando Calrissian.
Yes. But spoiler alert. is a bad guy that is not redeemed whatsoever, doesn't have any chance of being redeemed because...
but is he dead? Because he hit him here.
You're telling
didn't
me that
really
I could be deprived of a future Charlie Hunnam performance?
I guess maybe he couldn't. Maybe he might not be dead because I also thought the main bad guy was dead by the end of this movie, and apparently
he get naked.
He got Frankensteined and put into like
an embryonic fat.
Yeah, like amniotic fluid, and just got zapped and it's brought back.
Well,
and now he's got scars that were given to him by the Scar Giver.
Ooh, Michael, did you think about that? Just think about how he's got scars by the Scar Giver, Michael? You think about that?
I thought about how during that scene I heard Darth Vader breathing.
Yeah.
A lot.
As you do.
Yeah.
As you do.
Yeah.
Also, Anthony Hopkins was a...
It's the voice, okay. I didn't look it up. I think it sounded...
Was a C-3PO...
IG-88 looking droid.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What did you guys think about that? So, like, at first I was like, oh, okay, they just paid Anthony Hopkins to narrate the beginning of this movie instead of doing, like, a Star Wars, opening scroll, which was basically...
That was my first thought, was like, this is the opening scroll, isn't it?
Yeah. Which, now, if you had a narrator doing those in Star Wars, I was like, wow, this would make opening of Star Wars movies much more boring.
Yes.
Which it did.
If you had someone just reading it, like if you read it to yourself and it's got cool John Williams music playing as you're like reading and it's like going over stars.
Oh my God, the music in this was just so perplexing to me.
Snyder thinks the answer to every one of your question is, why did it happen? Because it's cool. Because it's cool. Because it's cool. Because he likes it. That's why.
I just don't know how.
Because it's cool. He grew up with it. It's cool. That's why. That's why he did it.
But as far as the droid goes, that was an interesting concept that they have this king that died and the droids are just like, we're slaves now. We're just no life. We're lifeless. We don't care about anything. You can do what you want to us.
What was so interesting about that performance, because I do think that Anthony Hopkins as the droid Jimmy, at least according to IMDb, and the touching performance that he gives with our surrogate princess down on the planet of Velt, and that's a touching performance. And in Anthony Hopkins, it's hard for him to, even whenever he is phoning it in, quite literally here, considering that it's a voiceover performance. But there's just a natural legality to it. There's just a natural gravitas that is brought. But like in the background, you could hear him talking with his bank supervisor, being like, hey, just put this into checking, please. Just put this. And
the check cleared, right?
Yeah, the check. I would have put 25% of this into savings. Which is wild that they left it in.
Do we think something weird is going on with that character too? Because like there's like this there's
droid
like
thing?
one of the last shots of this movie. So like when they leave, he's got like the flower crown on that she gave to him, and then like we see him like kind of like, because it feels like a weird ominous shot too. Like did this town become like a weird Midsommar kind of like cult after they left? So because he's got like the deer antlers now.
He's ready for war. Those are his war antlers.
I mean,
which is on one of the posters, I think, for this, is like his character like wearing the deer antlers. But I was like, what's happening here? I
mean, the rest of Seven Samurai has to happen because we haven't gotten the actual siege of the town.
You mean the rest of A Bug's Life?
Mark, as per usual, you're correct. Yeah.
You mean the rest of the Magnificent Seven?
Yeah. That'd be so wonderful if Zack Snyder was like, well, I was really influenced.
Just a big Robin comes in.
Yeah.
but it's a spaceship that looks like a robin.
Yeah.
And then
part
just
of
like
a
Kevin
robin.
Spacey, just dressed like a grasshopper. So, because we had a
You wanna see
spider
Kevin
lady, just
Spacey again.
having Kevin Spacey as a grasshopper guy.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's time for him to be brought back. I think
As
it's
a
time.
grasshopper.
Yeah, that's right.
In the Zack
He
Snyder
doesn't.
movie.
He doesn't talk though. He just gets. He's just doing it for exposure.
He exposed himself too much. Too much exposure for Kevin Spacey.
That's right.
Yeah, and unfortunately, can't have Christopher Plummer come in and replace him.
Not anymore.
Yep. All right. So we had.
Speaking of grasshoppers,
Yeah. So the characters in this, like I said,
They're
I
there, yes.
I can only remember their, well, not even remember names. I can only find out what their names are, or if I look them up, because I was watching this movie and I can't recall like what some of the stuff was that even like happened in it. Like while watching it.
I knew situationally what their names were in the moment. But yeah, if I didn't read the tie-in comic, the first of 4 issues last night, which is so thrilling, and then started the novelization last night, I wouldn't remember that the main character's name is Atticus Noble.
On the nose.
On the
Which
nose.
She's very noble.
So I'm fine with. I'm fine
Much
with
like-
on the nose. I'm
Much
good
like
with on the
Donna
nose.
from Doctor Who is also noble.
That's true.
Yeah, you would never. Oh, that was Carrie L. Oh, wow.
Yeah,
I
that's-
didn't know that.
yeah. Fun fact: this is actually a sequel to The Princess Bride.
There you go.
That's what happens after it becomes the king.
He goes on to be the Scar Giver.
No, that's Sophia Boutella, an actress that I really
Who will become a mummy?
enjoy.
She's a mummy.
She's a mummy.
She's not a mummy. She's
Yeah.
the titular mummy.
She's
She
the
scared.
mummy.
She made Tom Cruise run
Everything
because
makes Tom Cruise
he
run.
doesn't normally do that in movies. He never runs. But she made him run.
It is pretty rare. A presence so bone-chilling that it brought the Dark Universe to its knees. Sophia Boutella's portrayal of the mummy.
Yes.
Yeah. She's an actress that I really like. I'm glad to see her pop up here. I just wish it was in service of better material. Also, this is still the second highest rated Zack Snyder movie that I have in my list of Zack Snyder rankings.
What's the first?
It's Legends of the Guardians, the Owls of Ga'Hoole.
Marc can agree with that.
Yeah, Legends of the Guardians is a good movie.
Because it's a simple, stripped down narrative, and then no pretense of working with actors, and instead Zack Snyder gets to work out all of his directing things that he loves to do in animation, and I'm just like, there
With
we
owls.
go. You found with owls. You found your medium. There you go.
He should make more animated movies.
Yeah.
I mean, half of this movie's already animated anyways.
I was gonna say most of his movies are animated,
Yeah.
live action.
Yeah. But my wife brought something up too, and this was that I believe it was what was the name, Kenny? What was the name of the bad guy?
Atticus Noble, played by Ed Skrein, who I think is doing actual good work in this movie. And I was just like, you are Ed Skrein? You're popping.
Right. And then what was the name of the farmer that was with
Gunner?
Sophia Boutella?
Gunner.
Right. So I believe both of those characters, or both of those actors, played the same character on Game of Thrones.
No.
They were the heck's his name? The dude that was with Daenerys for a while.
Oh. Let's look it up. Oh my
It-
gosh. Yeah.
According to Ed Screen's IMDb, he was not in Game of Thrones.
According to Ed Screen's IMDb, he
There it
was
is.
in
I just didn't
3
scroll down
episodes.
from it. I got hung up that he was Ajax in Deadpool.
Oh yeah. Notably.
Wow. Yeah. Okay.
Francis.
So that's definitely why. That's definitely why Zack Snyder cast at least Michelle Huisman. There.
But I after she pointed that out, I just thought it was funny. Anytime they were in a scene together, I was like, you just need to get Korra in here from Solo. And
We had Korra in here from Rebel
Not-
Moon.
Korra with a Q, not with a K. Oh man.
What'd you think about that blatant cantina scene ripoff in this?
Oh yeah.
What do you guys think about Zack Snyder in the whole? On the whole, not in the
On the
whole.
whole?
That's the way that the movie starts.
You know what I will say about that scene though, in the cantina, is that I was like, this is actually a progressive scene in this.
In a way, it was because
'Cause
he
I-
starts talking about what he's talking about. And
Yeah, because I was like,
You
you know,
think-
normally this would be like some scummy dude doing this to a lady in the movie, but
and he full on grabs
he's like,
a handful.
yeah, I'm a big
gunner.
fan of Game of Thrones, and
It's weird that he says that in the movie. I'm
Yeah.
just like, this pulls me out of the reality.
yeah, just like what he was trying to do in that episode, in that scene to Gunner. But yeah, I was like, wow, this is actually kind of progressive for like this movie. I wonder if this will upset some of the Snyder Bros watching this that this happened.
That explains why you tweeted out hashtag #GirlBossSlay, Rebel Moon,
It's true.
Korra Queen, Korra is my queen. It's a long hashtag. Did you hear, Mark?
Yeah, I think it
And
went
she-
just to the character limit, but.
You mean Elon didn't charge per character yet?
No, although he probably could have been one of the space Nazis in this movie though too. So
Yeah.
it looks pretty similar.
To answer the question on what I think of Zack Snyder, he has talent. I think he's gonna do what he's gonna do. He's now, like I said, Michael Bay. That's he keeps getting work. His movies are never that good. Zack Snyder's gonna keep getting work. You're gonna get the same thing just with a different story each time.
Mhm.
Because he's gonna do what he's gonna do, and it's either gonna be okay or terrible.
Yeah, and
It's never blown me away.
as opposed to Michael Bay too, Zack Snyder actually seems like a generally like nice person
Yes.
that happens to just have
He's an artist, I guess you can say that.
like that happens to, I guess, just have people drawn to him that aren't necessarily the best of people for
Yeah.
whatever reason. But like, whereas like where I've offhandedly heard about people that have worked on sets with Michael Bay is that he's not like I'll just say allegedly because I don't want not just that he's not like a good dude.
Yeah.
But like Zack Snyder just seems like he's generally like can make fun of himself too, because like he showed up as himself on Teen Titans Go, making fun of himself there. Speaking of Zack Snyder in animation, he was on that making fun of himself in there, and then I almost feel like he would have had to sign off on it for it to show up on it. But like on the one, I don't remember what season it was, but on the Harley Quinn animated series, there's it's also relevant to this show too, because there's two shirts in this scene. There's two very Snyder Bro-ish characters in this scene that we're watching. Essentially, the framing of that episode was them watching an episode of Harley Quinn and then like commentating on it. And one of the shirts that the dudes had on one said to release the Snyder Cut on it, and then the other shirt said the Last Jedi isn't canon.
Isn't canon. Nice.
Yeah, so that's why I said it's relevant to a podcast called the HOLDO Maneuver. But yeah, so like I feel like he would have had to sign off, I guess, probably on that with maybe not, but because it had his name in it, maybe he would have had to. But I don't know. Like I said, I feel like if he had other people writing the movies that, like, if he had like a writing partner, maybe.
Except when he does have other folks writing stuff, it I mean, just to get, he has not demonstrated he necessarily is understanding filmmaking language in order to best translate the meanings of the script versus just allowing his own just desires for whatever the heck is just the coolest to take precedent. The Dawn of the, I mean, all of his movies are politically weird. And I think that's politically, I mean, both in terms of the political climate and also literally just what his viewpoint on the world is, and what each film is stating. I think you need only look at his Watchmen adaptation, which, boy, if I remember correctly, Snyder might have screenplay credit on that, but was originally credited to I think David Hayter and LXII.
Yeah, and he doesn't have any screenplay credit on our favorite Zack Snyder movie, Legends of the Guardian, Owls of Ga'Hoole.
And I think that movie works so well because it's the stripped down hero's journey type things, and Snyder works best whenever you take away his favorite things of lore and subtext. Because I don't think that he understands that those things are cool, but I don't think he understands the function of why those things are cool in order to successfully dramatize those things. Rebel Moon is Star Wars, well, in the genesis of how the heck this project came along, as well as freaking following the George Lucas ethos of, I am synthesizing all of the things that I loved as a child into this thing. He's just doing that again here, but it just makes Star Wars yet again that much more of a miracle, because that movie works and doesn't feel like a disparate collection of things that you recognize. And instead, every single thing here is like, oh, that's Star Wars. Oh, that's Seven Samurai. Oh, that's Terminator. Oh, that's The Matrix. Oh, that's Harry Potter. Oh, that's Conan. It is, which is, yeah. There's this weird sadist quality that I have attached to it, because every single time I'm like, maybe I want to pull for the guy, and also he just keeps having chances, and I'm constantly underwhelmed. And also, Sean Spicer was in Army of the Dead as an actor, and it was just like, come on, man. Anyways, that's my screed. And also, I saw Rebel Moon in a theater.
Oh man!
So
no escape.
You
had no escape.
I had no escape. They locked the doors. The Motherworld had posted their soldiers at every exit. But I saw this in the best way possible, and yeah, that first image popped up with the ship, and I loudly cackled.
And then everyone turned around and I was like, what?
Luckily, I was in my favorite seat, which is
The very
middle
back.
seat, front row.
Oh, there you go.
I'm a front row sitter.
Oh, so were you at an Alamo?
I was at an Alamo.
Okay, yeah, because their front row is, for everyone that doesn't know, is like the fourth row for every other theater.
Yeah.
So you're not like
You're not on the bottom of the screen looking straight up.
which is how I watched John Carter the first time, and in
Ooh,
3D.
I watched Wish recently.
Ooh,
Oh man.
bad.
Besides watching the movie, I eventually watched it again. The only good thing that happened at that screening was that I got to meet Andrew Stanton and talk to him.
Cool.
So that was, other than having to sit in the very front row to watch a 3D movie, which doesn't help 3D because you're not far enough away to. But
Yeah, that's a bad time.
Yeah.
You had, objectively, a bad time.
Yeah. Yeah,
Oh my gosh, Andrew Stanton, you met a director of a Star Wars thing.
that's true. Who had not done Star Wars yet.
Well,
Also
right,
a
right.
director of a Stranger Things. Who had not yet directed a Stranger Things.
Maybe he's directing it now again. Because didn't they start making those finally?
Yeah. Yeah. They just started filming season 5. And also going back to the Doctor Who spider in this, that was apparently Jenna Malone,
Yes.
which Jenna Malone's awesome.
I don't know why I said it
And
like that.
because she saved you.
Well, there's your
it's a
second
deep
Hunger
cut.
Games tie-in.
And also,
Oh yeah, I also in Hunger Games.
she's in all of Snyder's things too, because that's his carryover, which is cute. I like it. It's adorable.
I did like that Carrie Elvis was in this too. I was just like, oh cool, that's Carrie Elvis.
Yeah,
Very
I
always-
didn't even realize that until I looked on IMDb just now.
Although I'm wondering if there's gonna be more flashbacks or backstory in the second
Oh yeah,
movie. 'Cause
there will be.
You're
'Cause I was like-
wondering in a Zack Snyder movie if there's gonna be more backstory.
Well, because either in that R-rated director's cut, there's going to be more Carrie Ellis in that, or there's going to be more of him in part 2. Because I was like, that feels weird that you hire Carrie Ellis to be in this movie, and then he technically
Well, how many
doesn't
parts
really.
is this? Do we know?
I think it's only supposed to be. It's one movie, kind of split into 2, basically. Because I was like, that seems kind of weird to cast Carrie Ellis, and then like even his scene where like he has lines, it kind of segues into her saying his lines. So it's like this kind of like weird like mesh of that. I was like, huh, get Carrie Ellis, and then like doesn't he had a beard in one scene? Which Carrie Ellis with a beard looked pretty. Also, Corey Stoll with a beard kind of looks like Graham McTavish. And people who don't know Graham McTavish is, he was in Outlander, but he was also what else was he was in House of the Dragon, and he was also one of the dwarfs in the Hobbit trilogy.
Yeah.
But they look very similar when Corey Stoll has a beard. So that kind of bummed me out that Corey Stoll got literally beat to death like
With a shillelagh?
yeah, 15 minutes into the movie. Also, that shillelagh looked like a
Bone.
bone.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looked like the ball and socket. Like it was like he had taken someone's femur and bronzed it, and then it's like, I'm gonna use this as my weapon.
Well, speaking of the shillelagh, in the
A
fight
sentence
between
you never thought you'd say. Speaking of the
Atticus
shillelagh,
and Cora on that like platform, didn't she break it and then like 2 seconds later it's intact and he's using it again, and then she breaks it a second time?
maybe.
Gosh, I hope.
Like,
Look, I think the only way that we
I
can
swear
really
to
answer
God.
that question is by watching the movie again. So let's all
I can
agree.
just fast forward to that part.
No, I think we have to watch the whole thing, just to really.
I'll wait for the
ground.
Snyder cut.
Yeah.
That's just going to be a thing from now on, is that there's just going to be like a Snyder cut of every movie that he does.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Even though technically
It's cool.
this movie is the Snyder cut too.
Well, yeah, I mean, Zack Snyder, since Dawn of the Dead, there have been revised versions of his movies.
Yeah. Also,
Lucas kind of does it too.
Dawn of the Dead being one of his better movies, because he just directed it, and you know who wrote that?
James Gunn.
Yeah.
A
So
good writer.
you get a good writer, and you get a good visual director, and you put them together, you get a good movie.
Well, and also, Zack Snyder's visual eye kind of got broken with 300.
Like all of his movies kind of look like
Yeah,
300.
once he did that,
No.
like that's why 300 I feel was such a big success. Was it did
Well-
nothing had looked like that prior.
Except he was just doing what Sin City did.
Yeah, it's true.
True.
He basically is like, Frank Miller, I'm gonna do that, and that's also probably also why he still wants to do the Dark Knight Returns as a movie.
But he can't. Honey, he can't do that. You tried to.
Twice.
Yeah, he already kind of did that version of Batman with Batfleck.
You made
Well,
Ben
I was
Affleck Batman.
I was just thinking about like his Watchmen, which so missed the point of what it's about, but like it technically looks like the comic, but like you missed the point. Like the Damon Lindelof TV show is such a radically better adaptation of the source material, and it's a sequel that barely touches on the actual source material of the book, because Zack Snyder he is such a superficial filmmaker, and I don't mean that as pejorative. He is excellent at making cool images, but the moment that you try to assign scene to scene meaning, then it begins to fall apart. Which is why, I mean, he's as successful as a music video director prior to his theatrical output. Why it's easy for 300 to work, because he's literally doing the comic, and that story is already stripped all the way down. Dawn of the Dead is successful because he wasn't using his normal bag of tricks that would happen later in his career, and instead it's a little bit more of a journeyman lens that is being taken to that, and the script is able to sing just a little bit more.
Yeah, Dawn of the Dead was actually his directorial debut for as far as like a feature film.
Yeah.
And 300 was then his second movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
the original Dawn of the Dead is a satirical masterpiece, and his Dawn of the Dead, it's a completely different beast, but it still functions, which you can't say about the rest of his filmography.
Yeah.
I can't say. You could. Other people could. And I bet there are some educated folks out there who'd be able to be like, here's why it functions this way. But like, no.
No.
Nah. Just, he's fascinating. He's a fascinating figure to me.
Also, fun fact, on Netflix, you can now have your profile with a Zack Snyder avatar. The first director, the first director to have a avatar option on Netflix. Now, like,
does that make every movie on Netflix look like one of his movies then?
I mean, there's been Martin Scorsese movies on Netflix. I mean, you could add a Martin Scorsese avatar in there at one point too.
Glass Onion.
Yeah, you could add Rian Johnson. Famously, we love Rian Johnson because the HOLDO maneuver. You could have a Rian Johnson avatar on there. But yeah. So the part 2 of this will come out later this year in April. I'm assuming maybe they'll wait to release like the director's,
or they'll do it on the same day as the part 2.
Or maybe they'll they'll release them as like one long ass movie. It's just like the entire thing.
7-hour movie.
Yeah. That would be
Uncut.
that. Yeah, that would.
I'm like
Man,
that spaceship
How long would
in
that
the
be?
opening credit.
I mean, considering that Seventh Samurai is well over 3 hours, I want to say that it's close to 4. It's 207 minutes with intermission. So yeah, that's 3 hours 27 minutes.
We'll see what happens in the part 2 of this too. Also, before we close, I will say that if you watch the ultimate cut of Watchmen that has like details of the Black Friday, like
Not even the Snyder cut, the
weaved
ultimate
into it,
cut.
yeah, weaved into it, so that it's like verbatim, like how the comic was, and then you take how many did I do? 4 edibles. Sylvia is here to commentate on that too.
Hello, puppy.
And you take 4 edibles and yeah. You want some edibles, Sylvia? No, you can't have any. She didn't agree with that. But you then Sylvia's actually been here the entire time. She's right there in the background. Here, all right. So and then you take. Hi.
Is it walk time?
Yeah. And then you take 4 edibles and you watch the ultimate cut of Watchmen. You'll feel like Dr. Manhattan with all space and time happening at the same time. Because I did that for a podcast that won't be named anymore because it doesn't deserve to be named anymore. But I did that like a few years ago. And if you can figure out which one it was on and you can find that episode, you can hear me progressively, because I recorded myself for that episode as an experiment, watching it, progressively getting further into it. And that's all. That was
That is all you'll say about that?
A way to experience a Zack Snyder movie is all I'll say. Anyways, Kenny, where can people find you online?
You can find me over on Blue Sky at Trek Wars Pod, and at my podcast, the Trek Wars Podcast, where we are covering both the Star Trek and Star Wars franchises in chronological release order. We just recorded our Trouble with Tribbles, Bringing Up Narky episode. Nice. We are 2 episodes away from finishing Star Wars Ewoks, and we are then back to the movies, which I'm thrilled about. And this is my co-host with the Mo-host Aspen. You can find that over at trekwarspod.com. And if you live in the Austin, Texas area, I'm doing comedy all the time. It's embarrassing, but you can find me on Facebook too.
It's embarrassing.
Yeah, no, Michael, I said it was embarrassing.
Good old Facebook.
You can find Michael Soren on Facebook too. Just make sure you look for the one with the J in the profile.
You can follow the other one. You're in for some good spelling mistakes and
I'll say then you'll see the dichotomy between the two.
And some racist conversations.
Hey, I'm just glad that you're watching my Facebook, Michael.
I don't even watch my Facebook. So to be thankful, I watch yours.
Yeah. Looks like the director's cut will be released at some point in the summer.
Okay, yeah. That makes sense. They'll wait until like both of the parts are out until they do that. Mm-hmm. But so for the HOLDO maneuver, the other places you can find us is also we're also on Twitter, Blue Sky, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube at HoldoPod.
Here, there, everywhere.
Just like Roy Kent. We now also have HoldoPod.com, and for people that one's for people that can't spell maneuver. But we also have HoldoManeuver.com too, so we have both. And I was surprised that Disney didn't own HoldoManeuver.com, so I'm glad that we got it. So we got HoldoManeuver.com and HoldoPod.com, so that one will just take you straight to the YouTube channel. And then Mike and I are also on Twitter and Instagram and Blue Sky and also on Facebook.
There you go.
But yeah, And then you can email us at holdopod@gmail.com. But as always, we're grateful to Zack Snyder for creating the Rebel Moon universe.
Are we, though?
Oh dear, thank the maker.